You pick up a bottle of water, twist the cap, and assume the hard part was finding clean water. But in industrial bottled water, the water itself is often the easiest part. What really makes bottled water complicated is everything that happens after the source. The machines, the speed, the quality controls, and the tiny mistakes that can shut down an entire line. Today, we are going behind the scenes of how bottled water is really produced at massive scale, from raw water sources to bottling lines that can fill tens of thousands of bottles every single hour. And by the end you will understand why the biggest challenge in bottled water is not the water at all. And most people imagine bottled water starts at some pristine mountain spring. Sometimes that is true, often it is not. Industrial bottled water usually begins at one of three sources: natural springs, protected wells, or municipal water supplies that are further purified. In many cases, the source is regulated and monitored long before the bottling company ever shows up. Natural spring water flows from underground aquifers to the surface on its own. Well water is pumped from deep underground. Municipal water comes from the same treatment plants that supply cities, then goes through additional processing. No matter the source, the first priority is consistency. Bottled water brands need the same taste, mineral balance, and safety profile every single day. Nature is unpredictable, so factories rely on heavy monitoring. Sensors constantly measure flow rate, temperature, mineral content, and microbial activity. If anything drifts outside the allowed range, production can stop instantly. And this is where a big surprise shows up. Even spring water is almost never bottled exactly as it comes out of the ground. Before it ever reaches a bottle, the water goes through multiple filtration and treatment steps, not because it is unsafe, but because scale demands control. The first step is usually pre-filtration. Large filters remove sand, sediment, and organic debris. Think of leaves, tiny rocks, or particles stirred up underground. Next comes finer filtration, often using carbon filters. These remove odors, chlorine traces, and organic compounds that could affect taste. After that, many facilities use reverse osmosis or microfiltration. This is where water is pushed through membranes with microscopic pores that block bacteria, viruses, and dissolved solids. Some people assume reverse osmosis strips water completely. In reality, many brands reintroduce specific minerals afterward to maintain flavor and consistency. At this stage, the water is extremely clean, often cleaner than what most people drink at home. But here is the twist. The hardest part of bottled water production has not even started yet, because once the water is ready, it has to be packaged at insane speeds without contamination, and packaging is where things get brutal. Before water ever touches a bottle, the bottles themselves must be made. Most bottled water containers are PET plastic, lightweight, strong, and cheap to produce. But bottles are not shipped to factories in their final shape. They arrive as tiny plastic test tubes called preforms, about the size of a marker. These preforms are heated and blown into full-size bottles on site. This saves massive space in transportation and allows factories to produce bottles on demand. Inside the bottle-blowing machine, preforms are heated evenly, then stretched and inflated with high-pressure air inside steel molds. In just a few seconds, a full bottle pops out, and this process never stops. Thousands of bottles per hour flow directly from molding into the filling line. Human hands almost never touch them, because touching is the enemy. Once bottles exist, the environment around them becomes critical. Many bottling facilities operate clean rooms or controlled zones with filtered air and positive pressure. The goal is simple: keep anything from falling into the bottles. Dust, bacteria, moisture droplets, even tiny plastic fragments can cause problems later. Now comes the most intense part of the operation: the filling line. Water filling machines look deceptively simple. Bottles move along conveyors, stop briefly under filling nozzles, get filled, capped, and move on. But inside those machines is extreme precision. Each nozzle dispenses a carefully measured volume of water. Overfill wastes product and causes leaks. Underfill violates regulations and branding standards. At high speed, even a fraction of a second matters. Modern lines can fill and cap more than 50,000 bottles per hour, that is over 13 bottles every second. At that speed, there is no room for hesitation. Caps are fed in bulk, oriented automatically, and screwed on with precise torque. Too loose and the bottle leaks. Too tight and consumers struggle to open it. Meanwhile, cameras inspect every bottle in real time. They check fill level, cap placement, label alignment, and even tiny defects in the plastic. If something looks off, the bottle is rejected instantly, often pushed off the line by bursts of air. And here is where production gets stressful. A single small issue can cascade into a shutdown. If caps jam, bottles pile up. If a nozzle drips, sensors trigger alarms. If air pressure fluctuates, bottle shapes change. Stopping a line is expensive. Restarting it takes time, recalibration, and quality checks. That is why bottled water factories obsess over maintenance. Machines are cleaned and sanitized constantly, not once a day, often multiple times per shift. This cleaning process is called SIP, or clean in place. Pipes, tanks, and nozzles are flushed with hot water, sanitizers, and rinses without being disassembled. It has to be done perfectly. Any residue can affect taste or safety. And remember, this is just water. No sugar, no preservatives, no flavorings. That makes bottled water uniquely unforgiving. There is nothing to hide behind if contamination occurs. Once bottles are filled and capped, they move to labeling. Labels are wrapped or glued on at high speed, often using heat shrink sleeves. Dates and batch codes are printed on each bottle. This allows full traceability. If there is ever an issue, companies can track exactly when and where that bottle was produced. Next comes packaging. Bottles are grouped, shrink-wrapped, or boxed into cases. Robots stack cases onto pallets with perfect precision. A single pallet can hold thousands of bottles. And here is another hidden challenge. Water is heavy. A truckload of bottled water weighs far more than most consumer goods. Transportation costs are huge. Fuel, logistics, and storage all add up. That is one reason many bottling plants are built close to major markets. Shipping water across long distances is expensive and inefficient. Once pallets leave the factory, they move through warehouses, distribution centers, and finally retail shelves, all while maintaining seals, avoiding heat damage, and meeting expiration dates. Yes, bottled water expires, not because water goes bad, but because plastic slowly interacts with its environment. Heat and time can affect taste and bottle integrity. Throughout this entire journey, quality testing never stops. Samples are pulled regularly and tested for microbes, chemical balance, taste, and appearance. Some bottles are opened and destroyed just to confirm everything is right. Millions of bottles are produced. Only a tiny fraction are ever tested directly. That means the process itself has to be flawless. And that brings us back to the original surprise. The hardest part of bottled water is not finding water. It is controlling everything around it. The air, the machines, the timing, the cleanliness, the plastic, the logistics. At massive scale, bottled water is not a simple product. It is an industrial balancing act where speed and purity collide. Every bottle you open represents thousands of coordinated decisions and machines working in sync. So the next time you twist open a bottle of water, remember, what you are really drinking is not just water, it is precision. If you enjoy seeing how everyday products are really made, consider subscribing. There is a lot more happening behind the scenes than most people ever realize.